Welcome to the podcast to North American Literature hosted by the research group Studies in American Literature and Culture from the University of Granada.
Hi, I'm Gemma and today I'm here with Meglia to talk about her essay on birds as a symbol of madness in the works of Edgar Allan Poe and Susan Collins. Hi Meglia, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Gemma.
To start, I would like to ask you about how you came up with the idea for this essay.
Well, I didn't have the topic clear at all. Our professor asked us to find influence of 17th, 18th and 19th century authors on recent contemporary authors of North America. And at first I wanted to find a connection between Phyllis Wheatley's poem on being brought to America but with Angela Davis, the book on prisons, something related to prisons, because I found that thematically they would have a lot of things in common, especially because with all that's happening in the world, I think that there's nothing more compelling than being interested and engaged in the topic you choose to research and to discuss and to present. So I really, really wanted to do that topic, but it was really difficult because Phyllis only had a couple lines in her poem and Angela had a whole book. So finding stylistic features and resemblance in a literature context was a bit more difficult. For a sociocultural approach, it was fine, but that was the difficult part.
What did you choose after that?
Yeah, I ended choosing, I think, one of the greatest books from from this century, which is The Hunger Games, especially the second volume, the Catching Fire, because I think is very impactful. Some people would think that because it's focused on to a younger adult audience, that is going to be superfluous or something like that, like very focused on meaningful themes and just romance and stuff. But actually, when you look for the deeper meaning in it, you can find a lot of resemblance with society and the roles that the government and a lot of symbolism. Stylistic features and proper themes of literature that you can find in other works. So I was interested in that, and I started wondering which author from the ones that we studied in class could I make a connection with. So I found nothing better than birds. Poe had a whole poem about a raven that disrupts the peaceful evening that the poetic voice, let's say, was having, and it all goes down from there. He crashes out, and I see the resemblance with Katniss in the scene of chapter 24, if I'm not wrong.
When they're in the arena.
Exactly, when they are making her believe that her sister was kidnapped or being hurt or suffered torture from the capital, which is like the government there. And there are clear differences. One is like a dystopian novel, the other one is a poem, but they have a lot of features in common. in common. For example, I found the most compelling one was the figure of the loved one. I mean, both of the characters experience madness because of the relationship, the love they had for a woman. And even though Katniss was sisterly love and the other one was romantic love, I think it's very important to highlight the role that personal connections and relationships have in the decisions we make, in how we interpret things. Like emotion makes us conditioned to what we believe and what we do. So instantly the poetic voice in Poe's poem turned to believe that it was a message sent from heaven, saying that he was never going to return to Lenore. They would never.
Who's Lenore?
See. Lenore. Sorry, I love to digress, but I forget to explain the most basic things. Lenore basically is the beloved of the like the intellectual guy, yeah, the main character of the poem, the poetic voice, yeah. He basically in the Raven, a student, like an intellectual, is sitting in his room, and it's at night. He's having like dreamy feelings, like he's really tired, and suddenly he starts hearing noises, and he opens the window, he looks around and he sees nothing, but suddenly a raven comes from the window and starts disrupting his peace. And I didn't know that ravens could talk, honestly, before the poem.
Me neither.
Yeah, I thought it was a parrot thing, but hi. Now that we're saying parrots, I found the raven really compelling, because to understand it, you can go to the philosophy of composition of Poe.
Also by Poe.
Yeah, and there he explains it so well. I actually now see. I mean, it sounds really bad that I'm saying this, but I understand.
Are you sure you want to say this?
I understand why they say that Poe was a genius, because it's really smart. Like he says in one of the lines of philosophy of composition that he wanted to put a parrot, but because he was looking for like a dark effect, like he chose the raven because he's
because they can also repeat.
Yeah,
or imitate.
exactly.
Language.
They imitate human language, and it's a bird considered to bring like bad omens.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it really, because he argues basically in the philosophy of composition that you have to have the objectives real clear, and your story goes on from the original idea that you have. It's not like you sit down and you start writing and whatever comes up.
Yeah.
It's like you have a goal to achieve, like you're writing with a purpose, and all the elements of your writing have to fit into that purpose.
Yeah, for that effect.
Exactly. So I found that really compelling, and it helped me a lot during my analysis and my research, because I was really able to understand how he composed it. Yeah. And well, going back to Susan Collins, birds are like the big imagery of the franchise of the Hunger Games. Exactly. The last two books, not the last book, actually has like a mockingjay. The whole approach of it is like her being a symbol of the revolution, liberty, and resembled as a bird. And that was the main problem I had with using ChatGPT in the essay, because our professor asked us to employ ChatGPT into the methodology of the essay.
Okay.
It's a bit strange because at first I was also like challenged about it. I really didn't know how to approach it, but basically we had to prove how ChatGPT couldn't do a human's work.
So you had to check what ChatGPT did.
Exactly. It was like double the effort, because you didn't only have to bring up your own ideas, you also had to incorporate the corrections you had to do in order for ChatGPT to understand you and to give you some manageable information to use. I found it really, really challenging, honestly, because I usually don't use that, because I'm a person who thrives on on the creative process. I need my time to think, to develop the idea, and when you give me the idea and I'm struck with a lot of input suddenly, and I have all this material to work with, it's like now I can think. I have to work with what I've been given.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, it was really overwhelming, but somehow we managed to survive. Well, following that path, ChatGPT didn't understand my idea of connecting the bird, that it was a bad omen, that it was driving the poetic boys crazy, with the idea that Katniss in chapter 24 was like hunted by these mutes, that they call them. Like they are like devices created by the Capitol to send them into the arena to control them.
Some sort of bird? Or?
Yeah, it's a bird. It's Jabberjay, and they are known for repeating sounds they've heard as the raven. Yeah, that's the first resemblance I found that could be useful in my essay. Yeah.
And how did you follow that?
And then I asked ChatGPT if he could somehow see what I was trying to do. And once I specified the chapter, I told him my ideas, and I arranged all the information he needed to have like some good feedback, because previous to that he just was giving me like random facts about each work that didn't relate too much. Then he I don't know why I say he. It's it, but it started being more useful. I could use some of the things in my research. So I parted from that idea that both were hunted by birds. And it was very interesting to delve into. Also, the characters were really interesting, because in the one hand you had Katniss, who was seen as this brave and courageous young woman, but she was really just a random girl who was living in her district and had to give up everything for her sister. And then you have the poetic voice, who is also struggling with the recent death of his beloved. And I saw also that similarities between how deranged they were and drained. I mean, their essence was pretty much not there, and the perception that the reader could have of them, it was not really what they were. I mean, we see Katniss as this brave warrior, and it turns out she's nothing like that. Well, I mean, she is, But in the inside, when she's alone, she doesn't feel that way. She feels a bit of an imposter.
Yeah, she's so young.
Yeah, she's so young and struggling so much. And then you have the young man that is an intellectual. He's supposed to be this logical thinker that can rationalize, when suddenly he starts hearing a bird talk, and he says, oh my God, it's a sign. He's finding a deeper meaning in something that it really does not have a deeper meaning. So it was really, really interesting to develop that idea.
And what are your final conclusions on using ChatGPT in order to develop those ideas?
I really, really, really admire the people that can work with it.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't. I feel it's too artificial. And it's too out of touch. I mean, it's like he gives you like the very superficial notions of the topics.
Mm-hmm.
And to ask short questions like, what is transcendentalism, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it can go on its database and find all the research that has been done in transcendentalism and the descriptions and definitions that have been already given of transcendentalism. But when you want to develop an idea, we have to be aware that it's not a real entity. It's not thinking. It lacks the basis of cognitivism that we need to form a good and structured development of any topic. So I would suggest to anyone that is looking forward to use ChatGPT in their work to really be specific and to do. It's like you have to do double the work, because you have to do all the research to be specific and to give it a specific input for it to produce an okay output. So it's really not worth it, in my humble opinion. But I could be wrong. I don't.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Any other question? Was it that all?
Any other thing you want to add when it comes to the final thoughts of your essay?
Yeah, that I think literature has this magic in it that you can really see things and extract meaning from things that you wouldn't expect. I really love how everything is somehow connected, and you can find like similarities, meaning, features. I mean, when you really try, you're going to find something. There's always a thread to pull. So that's what I liked the most about this task, that it was challenging. It was like, let me see what you find. Let me see. Also seeing the approaches that my classmates took, they were really imaginative and creative. They were linking Trump with
founders, maybe?
Yeah, with the founders. I mean, you actually see the resemblance. It's really accurate, but it's amazing when you go back and trace the history of the United States, how there's a high probability that you find linkers and connections between things. Yeah, and I found that really, really magical.
That's an interesting and very thoughtful idea to end the podcast with. Thank you so much for being here. I loved listening to you, and see you.
Thank you for hearing all my thoughts. Hope it was useful.